We are continuing on with Project 6, the candy package, and we are still in stage 2. Next, we're going to create type on a path. You need to lock the groups that we created, but don't lock the sides, just the groups that we did, and make side 1 the active layer. We want to pick up the pen tool. We would like to have a 1-point stroke, black, with no fill. And we're going to click and drag to start creating our line. Remember, you can drag in the direction that you want the curve to go. Use the smart guides so that you can center your line over the existing curves. And remember that you can always go back in and edit the line using the direct selection tool. Hold down your control key and click to the side to deselect your line. We're going to have to separate a little bit of this line because we need to have this isolated to the sides. Locate and double click on your eraser tool. We're going to make sure that the size is set at 8 points and say OK. And now you can drag your eraser over the line that we just drew to separate those two panels. And it may look like it's going to erase part of the group below, but it will not because our group is locked. Based on the settings that you give, the eraser tool will add points. If we left a fill on this, this would actually create two enclosed pieces. So you have to make sure that there was no fill. If you accidentally left a fill on, simply undo and redraw your line. Using your selection tool again, click away from the selected objects to deselect and then select only the right-hand path. In the Layers panel, drag that selected art icon from side 1 up to side 2. Next, pick up your Type tool and click near the left side of the path on the left panel. Do you see how the icon changes to have an insertion point with a wavy line going through it? That means that the type is going to convert to path type. With the insertion point flashing along the path, type in a sweet fruity trip. Select all the text, and you can do that by triple clicking, or you can go to select all and format it as a 24-point font. And we want something that's going to be a little bit more distinctive. And again, I bet that nobody has Coral. No, the closest I have is Corbel, which is not the same thing, but you can select whatever typeface you would prefer. And we're going to change that text to the dark red color. And we want a 0-point baseline shift with right paragraph alignment. Now, depending on where you click to place your message, you may not see all of it. We will adjust the text position on the path over the next 2 steps. Now, once we started typing, the black line that we had is automatically removed as soon as we convert that stroke to being a type path. Now, with the type tool still active, press your control key and click away from the active object to deselect it. Go over to the second panel and click on the path to convert it and type in with a sour zip. Now with that one, we're going to need to change that to a left align. And we want to again select it all and change it to the red swatch. We can select both of these items and we can make some adjustments to the character. And if you would like to see that the items take up a little more room, we can make some adjustments to that. I would go in here and I would set my tracking up perhaps to widen it out just a little bit, maybe you know, just so that it looks a little bit better. I would rather see that spread a little bit further. I also may go in and select both of those and move the spacing up a little bit because I'm seeing my text is running into my banner and I don't really particularly like that. So I'm going to give that a little more space. And I'm just using my arrow keys with both of those items selected. And then I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and see how that's looking. One of the things you need to notice is that we maybe could use this text over a little bit farther because it's running pretty close to the edge and we don't want to have anything slide off the page. What we can do is pick up our direct selection tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because what I want to look at is where the ends of my text are. I'm going to grab my selection tool and click to select the text, and these are indicating where the center of my text is. Let me slide this over here. This is the end of the line of text. This is the beginning. So I can actually go in with my selection tool and see how the cursor changes to align with an arrow to indicate which direction that's changing, and I can click and drag that. Select the other one and I can click and drag the text and reposition the text along the path. Now I'm looking at this and I am going to have to make some changes because what I've got is not positioned correct. So let me open my layers panel up and I am going to turn on my background layer. I want to leave my background layer locked, but I'm going to unlock both of the groups that I had locked on this layer because notice my sour zip is not within the safe area. So I am going to click and drag to select all of these items, and I'm going to use my arrow key. If I hold my shift key down, it will jump a little bit so that I can move my items down within the safe area. Okay, now that those are moved, I'm going to lock those sides and I'm going to unlock my background layer because I see that my background layer is up too high. So I'm going to move that down a little bit, and it's just personal placement, but I'm dropping mine down so that it runs down a little lower and I don't have anything that's going to interfere with reading A Sweet Fruity Trip with a Sour Zip. With our first two sides completed, we need to lock everything on the artboard and create a new layer and name it Side 3. Move that layer just under the die cut layer, and we're going to begin by putting in a rectangle. So with the rectangle tool and making sure side 3 is the active layer, we want to create a rectangle that fills the entire side. It needs no stroke and it needs a white fill. Cover everything from anchor point to anchor point. We're going to load some text in there. Pick up your selection tool and go to File, Place, and you're going to select Box Copy. Accept the defaults that come up on the import options, and you're going to click and create a box. I realize the instruction in the book says to simply click, but I'm going to click and drag to create a text box that fits. I want to make sure that it covers the majority of that section of the box, and it does. I can then go back in and I can resize that. We want to change our formatting to a 12.5 point font. So actually I'm going to need to type in 12.5, and we want to select whatever text it was that you used to create the curved text above Smart Tarts. I remember mine was Corbel, and whatever you used, so that there's some continuity in the type of text that we're using. The reason I've stressed that is because generally in graphic design, you want no more than 2 to 3 typefaces on one designed piece. We don't like to mix too many typefaces. We need the continuity. We also want to increase this to a 17-point leading, which is going to space our text out a little bit farther. Next, we're going to place in some artwork that is a Photoshop file. So let's place and take Anniversary 75. We want to make sure link is not selected, but we want to show import options and select place. Make sure that show preview is selected, and we're going to choose convert layers to objects and select OK. Click to place the object on the artboard, and then with your selection tool, move to place it at the top right corner of the third panel. We can take it a little bit closer, so kind of split the difference between the margin and the actual edge. Leave that object selected and go to Object, Text Wrap, Make. Applying a text wrap to an object forces the text to flow around it instead of running in front of or behind it. We're going to open our text wrap options next by going into Object, Text Wrap Options. And let's slide this over to the side. I want to select my preview so I can see any changes that are going to be made. We want to increase the offset field from 5 to 9 points. You can see how that changed, and then select OK. The offset value defines the distance between the object and the text. Next, we're going to apply an effect. With our 75-year piece still selected, go to Effect. You want to stay in the top panel, which is Illustrator Effects, Stylize, and select Drop Shadow. In the Drop Shadow dialog box, select Preview, and you'll see how that affects the text. We would like to have our opacity at 50%. Our X offset needs to be much smaller. We're going to make that 3/100, so it's 0.03. Our Y offset also needs to change to 3/100, and we're going to decrease the blur to 5/100. Leave your color at black and say OK. We're going to open up the Appearance panel, and you can see that the drop shadow appears in it, and you can see that the drop shadow is an appearance attribute. You can edit it by selecting the hot text in the Appearance panel. If you want to remove the effect, all you would need to do is click on it and drag it to the trash can. Back in our Layers panel, we're going to click the target icon to select the diamond sublayer that is within the anniversary artwork and target it. In your transparency panel, open your blending mode and choose color burn. By changing the blending mode, you've made the text a blend of the original black text color and the blue gradient color of the badge object. You can apply the same blending mode now to the anniversary sublayer. Remember, you can duplicate the appearance by holding down the Alt button, dragging the appearance to another layer. Now select the white rectangle that we created. You can either click on it outside of the text box, or you can select it in your Layers panel. It's the bottom item in the stack. In your Transparency panel, change the opacity to 80%. This will allow some of our artwork to bleed through.